Next topic we're going to talk about, Matt, is what our thoughts are on freemium games. And do I still have it up? Let's find it.
The actual definition?
Yeah, I looked up the definition. I don't think I have it. Anyway, freemium games are games where they're, we're talking about phone apps and downloadable MMOs mostly. Things like that, where it's free to play the game, but they have in-app purchases or even kind of a pay-to-win aspect to it where it's like, you're not going to do very well unless you put money into the game.
Right.
What's your first thoughts on this? You got anything you want to touch on immediately?
First thoughts, I mean, if it's an app and it's asking for in-app purchases, if I don't need those purchases to advance, it's cool. If I'm buying something, maybe just speed up my progress, that's cool. But sometimes you'll get an app and you'll start playing it. It's like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And then it's like, after a few days or a week or so, you just hit like a wall and you start looking. It's like, I have to pay to keep going.
You did this on purpose.
Yeah,
people.
this was a ploy. And I'm now to a point where if I don't pay money, I pretty much have to get rid of this.
You hit the nail on the head because I feel the same way. There's games out there such as, we've talked about Final Fantasy Brave Exvius.
Right.
There's things you can buy to make it easier, but you don't have to spend a dime on that game as of right now to establish all the content. Now, obviously, it's kind of a booster pack game.
Right.
So you are at the mercy of the luck of the draw a little bit, but you get the draw quite often. And so eventually you're going to get guys that are good. It just might take you longer to other people who spent lots of money to draw more times.
Yeah, they just got more chances at the lottery.
Yeah. The lottery is bad, though. Yeah. It's low chances.
Right.
But, I mean, games like Pokemon, what do you think of that?
Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go, it doesn't really affect your gameplay too bad. So, I mean, it might help progress you a little longer or quicker because... if I want to spend money to get coins, to get more lucky eggs, it'll give me more experience.
But you don't think you need to spend money on the game at all, right? Unless you live out in the middle of nowhere.
You could do it and not play. You could not spend a cent on that game and you might be happy. And
I don't see how anybody wants to spend money on it if they live in a downtown area.
And also, if it's a game where you're not competing with other people, it really doesn't matter at all. So if someone wants to spend a bunch of money on Pokemon Go, well, I guess there's gyms, but...
Eventually it might matter. But right now it's not that big of a deal.
Right. It could somewhat matter to a point, but ultimately it's not that big of a deal.
Right.
And then you got your, Clash of Clans. Spending money on that game, I can throw $500 into that game, and all it does is save me time.
I was going to ask you about Clash of Clans because from what I understood, the length of time that I played it was only maybe a month or two.
Right.
It just felt like when you buy gems or whatever it's called,
right,
you can spend it to like instantly complete things.
Right, exactly.
Which means you don't have to wait.
Or give you instant resources to build or upgrade something.
Right, but it's not like if you're playing an RPG online.
You don't get the best sword by paying $20. Right.
I do all this raiding and grinding and stuff like that to get real high, but you bought the same item for $20.
Right. See, there was a game I was playing for a little bit. I can't remember the name of the game. Ebony or something like that, I think, or Ebony. It was a war game. It was a lot of just numbers, honestly.
Kind of like Clash of Clans, you mean?
No. Yeah, actually it was. You built up a village, but then like you had a guild or whatever. So I guess in a sense, but it was not quite as animated. It was a lot like more strategy on like, I'm going to send.
Oh, and you just type in a number. I'm sending 50 guys to this.
Yes, exactly. So what I found out after playing it for a little bit, like it was a lot of fun. Like I started a world, played with some people, got in a good group or whatever. Well, then they're like, "Wait, we're going to transfer over to this new world." Okay, so we go over there, we start a new thing, and then I started seeing them complaining about like these people would go into these worlds and didn't have a problem with spending $200 to just be the leader in that world now.
Yeah,
and it just propelled them so much further ahead of everybody else that then everyone's going to run to them. They get the best players on that server, and then it's eventually I guess it could turn into they're fighting the whole clan or the whole server. But I mean, ultimately they'll just move to another one and buy it too, though. So That's when kind of the bad taste got in my mouth on things of that nature.
Oh, that's like your first taste of this?
That was the first time I kind of was like, that's when I was like, you should not be able to pay to beat players.
I agree, especially if it has like some, like you said, if it has like some PvP element to it, you should not be able to pay to win.
Right.
Paying to win on a single player experience, you're right. It like something like Candy Crush or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. If people want to spend money because they're not patient, that's fine. You know, it's their money. They can do what they want. But when it becomes a competitive atmosphere, I feel like pay to win becomes a problem, even though the company makes bank out of it.
Right.
I mean, take League of Legends and stuff, which I think does a very good job of what they do because most of the paying money unlocks other characters for you to play. So you have more options, it's like, you know, you're playing a miniature game. Well, you don't have as many miniatures as I do, but it doesn't mean that I'm winning, you know, because I have more miniatures. We still just bring 3 guys to the table.
Right.
I just bring 3 different guys and you choose from a smaller pool of guys. So I got a larger pool of guys to pick from. The other thing that I think it does a really well job on is cosmetic items, like skins for the same characters.
Right. Yeah, no,
that's awesome.
That's moneymaker right there.
That is a moneymaker, and by far the best thing I think you can put into a game is cosmetic skins. That's just crazy good.
Yeah, it's. I remember when I would play the World of Warcraft, you know, online. You'd be walking around, I was like, that's a cool looking horse, but he paid $10 for it.
Yeah.
So, but if he wants to do that, whatever.
Or $1,000 for it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
The spectral mount or whatever.
Spectral tiger.
Spectral tiger. Yeah.
Yeah. So but it affects the gameplay none whatsoever. It's it's pretty pixels. You can sit in the town and ride around on your tiger, and everyone's like, oh look, I've heard about this thing.
Yeah.
Now I've actually seen it. So
yeah, I think you said it well in the beginning. If it's cosmetic or it speeds up it stops the grind.
Right. Exactly.
That's fine. If it's going to make you a better player, not skill wise, but just because you're doing more math at somebody,
right.
That's bad. Now, I'm pretty much done with this topic, but you said something earlier before we began the podcast that I thought I might talk on.
What's that?
Is buying apps on the phone and how much they cost.
Yeah, it seems like people gripe about like board games. I think one of the reasons it came up is because like a lot of board games average, you know, $5 to $7, it seems, to get a board game app. And I don't know, people get just outraged that.
Do you think it's reasonable pricing?
I mean, that's all based on the person that wants to do it. I mean, I think sometimes people just think it's a board game. I should get it for free. Why should I have to pay anything to get this app?
I think most people are more in the mindset of it's either free or $1.
Because that's what most of them are. Right. Or at least in the beginning.
Well, even some of your dollar apps, though, have in-game purchases.
Right.
And so it's kind of like a trick, you know, not question, but you know what I'm saying?
You think you get the full game
for $1
because you are actually paying something.
Yeah. And then people, they don't want to fork out $15 for a Final Fantasy game, but they'll turn around and buy it for $30 on the system it's for.
Right.
You know, granted, the Final Fantasy games they're putting out are like republishing games of like, you know, like Final Fantasy 7.
Right.
Well, if you want to buy Final Fantasy 7 on the PlayStation right now on the download store, it's like $15 or $20, or maybe it's 10. Let's just say it's 10.
Right.
Oh no. If it's 15, let's just say it's the same price. 15 on the phone or 15 on the PlayStation store. People are going to complain more about it being $15 on the phone because it's a phone.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, people.
It's just an app. It's
just an app. Yeah, we could complain about that. If our BGOMGs weren't only about board games, we'd be talking about the music industry right now.
Right.
And how people complain that music should be free and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, because these people put in all this time and effort and ideas, but you want it for free just because it's digital and it's free to copy.
Mm-hmm.
Nope. Anyway, so I thought that was pretty interesting because the last thing I'll say on this is that people would spend $50 on a game in like 6 months, but they won't want to pay $7 for that game.
Right.
Initially.
And I see where a lot of people too with in-app purchases are just like, I would never spend money on an app. That's just, you know, ridiculous.
I've heard that so many times.
And it's like, well, do you buy video games? What
Yeah.
maybe this person doesn't own a console and that's their video game system.
The same person who the only game they played was Farmville and they put $200 into that.
Yeah.
I didn't buy the app. I'm
Right.
just buying things inside of it. No, that counts, person. Now you
Right.
just spent $200 on that game.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, final thoughts on that? Freemium games?
I think I said everything.
I wonder if that's possible with board games. Could you imagine that? We'll send you the game for free, but you got to buy all the components to it.
Wow.
You get like this base game. That is the stupidest concept. That's the dumbest idea ever, but we're going to go through with it. Could you imagine? Let's just take a game at random here. Like, Spectre Ops, just because it's the first thing over there. It's kind
Right.
of bright. Could you imagine taking Spectre Ops and it's like you get one guy for the infiltrators
Right.
or whatever, the agents.
Yeah.
And you get like two guys for the opposite team. And now you got to keep buying all the extra characters. I mean, there are games like that, but like that game in particular would be so watered down.
Right.
You only get half the board.
Half the board.
You got to buy the other half.
Only certain abilities. If you want the rest of the abilities, you got to unlock them.
You get like a third of the cards in every card you buy. I mean, I get expansions, but we're not talking about expansions. We're talking about taking a game that, or even if that, it's like one person can buy a guy who comes with like a machine gun and he can just mow down infinite ammo. People start showing up with cards that they bought online to make their character better. They're paying to win against board games.
Right.
Oh, that's a stupid concept.
Yeah.